Imagine a bodybuilder with such an extreme level of definition that he literally looked like a statue showing human anatomy. Extremely thin skin, veins all over his body, and body fat levels close to zero. That bodybuilder was Andreas Munzer, a legend of old-school bodybuilding, known for probably having the best definition in history, but behind that almost impossible physique, there was a very high price to pay. He had one of the most tragic endings in bodybuilding and one of the most horrifying autopsies ever seen. The condition of his organs was chilling. Welcome to another video featuring stories about old-school bodybuilders. Today we're going to look at Andreas's physique and posing, how he achieved such extreme definition, his training and diet, his most important competitions, and the dark side, the big aspect, substance abuse that ended up costing him his life, because the story of Andreas Munzer is one of the most impressive and also one of the most tragic in bodybuilding. Andreas Munzer was born in Austria in 1964 and started training at a very young age. From the beginning, he stood out for something different from the others, his absolute obsession with definition. While many bodybuilders were looking for size and mass, Munzer was seeking aesthetics, perfection, and an extremely low level of body fat. And this was the case from the very beginning, even when he still didn't have enough muscle mass to compete with the top bodybuilders. From the moment he started, he was obsessed with definition. Throughout the 1980s, he gradually progressed in European competitions until he became an IFBB professional. He wasn't the biggest bodybuilder on stage, but he was by far the most defined, and he always caught the judges' attention in that regard. This would become his personal trademark. What made Andreas Munzer famous was his almost inhuman level of definition. His body fat percentage during competitions is estimated to have been around 3 or even less. To put it into perspective, a normal man has between 15 and 20% body fat. A lean male athlete can have between 8 and 10% body fat, and a competitive bodybuilder is usually between 5 and 6%. Munzer went even further. His skin didn't look like skin, it was stuck to the muscle like plastic wrap. You could see the muscles contracting with total clarity. Individual muscle fibers, cuts and striations in areas where no one else has them, vascularity, and a level of dryness that is still impressive today. But the big question is how he achieved it. Before we move on to talk about the obvious, let's mention his generation, which plays a very important role in bodybuilding. Munzer had extremely thin skin from the beginning, while there are other bodybuilders who have skin as thick as leather. He had quite aesthetic muscle insertions, he had spectacular biceps with a good peak, he had a nicely detailed back. His quadriceps were long but quite pumped, and they had spectacular separation. His physique was very symmetrical. We can say that he had pretty good genetics, but genetics alone don't explain his level of definition. Some bodybuilders had better genetics than him, but none achieved his level of dryness. The difference was in his extreme discipline and the wild abuse of substances he engaged in. Andreas Munzer was known for being extremely strict. He trained every day of the week, sometimes twice a day. His training style included heavy weights, high volume, fairly long sets, with very little rest and a lot of cardio. Here's an example of his leg workout, where we can see that he does a large number of sets, especially focused on the quadriceps, with a volume that is quite high compared to other bodybuilders. Even more so considering that he trained every day, sometimes even twice a day, and did hours of cardio. Cardio was the key. He did long sessions even when he was already very lean. He couldn't stay still, he was always on the move. And the diet was pretty extreme. It's said that during competition prep for several months he would eat only chicken or turkey, completely lean, only breast meat, white rice, boiled potatoes and some vegetables, but practically no fat at all. For several weeks he would consume almost 0 grams of fat, which is extremely dangerous for the body since it's very necessary. And the body needs it for certain vitamins, but Munzer was obsessed with stepping on stage completely dry. Andreas never won the Mr. Olympia, but he competed against the best in the world. He competed several times in the Arnold Classic and Mr. Olympia, facing bodybuilding giants of the 1990s. In 1989 he placed 13th, in 1990 he placed 9th, in 1991 16th, in 1993 9th, and in 1994 9th. That 16th place finish in 1991 was the best Olympia placing he ever achieved. In his favor, I'll say that the level in those years was off the charts. But seeing his impressive physique, he was underrated. He was never an overall champion, but he did become legendary, and many fans still consider him the most defined bodybuilder in history. Interestingly, even today, with so much knowledge and advances in diet, supplementation, training, science, medicine, you know what I mean, few bodybuilders reach Munzer's level of dryness. In the classic physique category nowadays, there are very defined physiques, even in open bodybuilding, but in the open there generally aren't looks like this, and they usually go more for size, sometimes even coming in soft. Andreas's physique was less massive and not as large, but it was pushed to the absolute limit of muscular definition. And now it's time to talk about what so many of you were waiting for, the tragic end of Andreas Munzer. For someone outside the industry, Andreas might look healthy on the outside, like someone who practices a lot of sports and follows a good diet. In 1996, at just 31 years old, he passed away suddenly. The autopsy concluded that he died of dystrophic multiple organ failure at the age of 31. Several vital organs were so damaged that they stopped working almost at the same time. One of the most shocking facts was about his heart. He had severe cardiac hypertrophy. The weight of his heart was almost 640 grams, while the normal weight for an adult is between 300 and 350, that is, almost twice the normal size. An enlargement associated with prolonged use of anabolic steroids, high blood pressure, and chronic cardiovascular stress. A heart like that has a higher risk of failure or fatal arrhythmias. The most damaged organ was the liver. It was in extremely serious condition, almost 3 kilos, while a normal liver can reach up to 2. It had multiple tumors the size of ping pong balls, damaged and dysfunctional bile ducts. Approximately half of the liver had turned into a brittle mass similar to polystyrene, a type of damage that is typical of prolonged use of hepatotoxic oral steroids and extreme metabolic stress. Some autopsy reports described the liver as literally disintegrating upon being touched. The kidneys were also severely affected, swollen, with virtually no protective fat. This is usually related to extreme dehydration, use of diuretics, and chronic kidney stress. The autopsy described an almost total absence of subcutaneous fat, not having any fat. Not having subcutaneous fat is unusual even in professional bodybuilders. The body needs fat to regulate hormones, protect organs, and maintain metabolic balance. As for his hormonal system, severely atrophied testicles were detected, a typical symptom of prolonged use of anabolic steroids. The toxicological analysis found traces of approximately 20 different drugs. Among those substances were testosterone, oral steroids, growth hormone, insulin, and quite a few diuretics, which led him to severe dehydration and imbalance. Some sources said that he would take 6 aspirins every morning to endure the pain of his daily life. One of the most critical findings was a severe electrolyte imbalance with extremely high potassium, which causes arrhythmias and cardiac arrest. It was probably related to the abuse of diuretics before competing. Andreas Munzer was unique, a bodybuilder obsessed with perfection who achieved a physique that still seems impossible today, and he paid a very high price for it. It's also a reminder that in bodybuilding, like in many things, pushing the body too far has consequences. Most bodybuilders today no look like that anymore, and maybe we'll never see a physique like his again, but honestly, I think that's for the best. If you want to see more stories and videos about old school bodybuilders, I'll leave a playlist at the end of the video with the other episodes of this series, and also in the pinned comment and in the description.